That is my workshop. Yeah, it's a little bit small, probably around 120 square feet, and it needs a little work on the outside, as you can tell. But since it's been so cold outside, as you can tell by this snow in March, I've been working on the inside. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So as cliche as this may sound, on a shop this size, organization and efficiency really do make a big difference. And before long, tools start taking over the area where actual woodworking is supposed to be happening. Does it work? Sort of, but it definitely could be a lot more efficient. This was just a shop cabinet. It didn't need complicated joinery. It just needed to be functional to get some tools off my workbench and into an organized space. Not only did I want it to be functional, but I did want to have a nice appearance as well. And I also thought if I could utilize some of the wall space, I'd be on the right track. When working with veneered plywood and cross-cutting the end grain of the veneer, the fibers tend to tear out. So I was trying out a new technique with the blue painter's tape to try to prevent any tear out. I didn't notice a difference with or without the tape, but if you've noticed an issue when cutting plywood with tear out, it might be worthwhile trying out that painter's tape trick. Even though this was just a shop cabinet, at some point I decided I didn't want to leave the raw plywood edges exposed. So I started milling up some nice thick edge banding to clean up all those visible edges. This was shaping up to be a pretty nice shop cabinet. If you're like me, you might have a good idea on how you want the project to turn out, but not always a clear path on how you're going to get there. That was definitely the case here. Cutting the slots on the ends with the biscuit joiner is easy. The tool is basically set up to make quick work of that. But getting slots in the middle of the board isn't quite as straightforward. I've run into that problem before, so I took a step back and thought about, how can I do this better? I ended up making a simple setup piece of polycarbonate to set the distance from the edge of the tool to the center line of the slot. And with that piece, I can perfectly set up where the auxiliary fence needs to be. I don't know why I didn't think about doing this before, but it's a game changer. Stretch here, got a few things left to do to finish this up. The first thing is I want to add a edge detail along the top and bottom pieces of the case. Then I need to sand and pre-finish the inside. I want to do that before it's assembled and glued up because it'll be a lot easier to finish all the pieces individually. So I'll have to do some masking there and then the glue up. At this point, it was coming together pretty much as planned. But somewhere along the way, maybe, I don't know, when I was making those maple strips to cover up the raw plywood, it started to feel like more than just a shop cabinet. However, there were a number of things that still needed to be done. So it was just a matter of working through the remaining steps, one piece at a time, getting everything all finished up. Very nice, Greg. Nice and smooth. One thing about small shops that I was thinking about is it's actually kind of an advantage. Most of your tools are usually within arm's reach, and instead of walking across a big shop to find something, you usually just have to turn around to grab it. And when everything has a place and stays in place, the whole process becomes a lot more enjoyable. It'd be nice to have a bigger space, don't get me wrong. But when working in a smaller shop, it forces you to think differently. You end up solving problems in ways you might not have otherwise. It's kind of like limiting yourself to a small set of tools or materials, and that's usually where creativity shows up. At least that's what I'm telling myself. Since the back panel is solid wood pieces, it is going to expand and contract with seasonal movement. So I just added one screw in the middle of each board to allow for that movement and to help keep its position within the case. Then I used the toothpick trick to pin each board at the top. This will help maintain the board spacing and then also allow for that seasonal movement. What started out as a simple idea to organize the shop, get things cleaned up, finally became something real. And just getting a few things off the bench made a bigger difference than I ever expected. It didn't change the shape of the shop, it didn't add more square footage, but it changed how the shop feels, and I like it. Sometimes the simplest projects make the biggest difference. This cabinet will eventually hold a set of small drawers for tools and other equipment, and I'm going to work on that in the next video. Also, I have an idea for a new joint design that I'm going to experiment with, so I'm excited about that. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.